In the beginning there was nothing, only a vast, dark emptiness. Now, imagine a deep silence stretching on and on, almost like a pause in a grand symphony before the music starts. Then, suddenly, the voice of God breaks through the darkness, commanding, "Let there be light." And just like that, light bursts forth, filling the void. It's like the very first sunrise you've ever seen, pure and dazzling. Shadows flee, and day and night are born as God separates them. Imagine watching darkness and light spinning like threads, each in perfect balance. The world is taking shape. Next, God turns his attention to the waters. He speaks, and the waters above are separated from those below, forming the heavens. Can you picture the vast expanse of sky stretching out, infinite and blue, a ceiling of shimmering space? It's like watching a canvas as God paints it with layers and textures that reach up higher than you can fathom. And then, on the third day, God gathers the waters below and calls them seas, letting dry land appear. Picture the ground pushing up through the waters, mountains emerging and valleys forming like the earth is stretching awake. The land is rich and dark, and God commands it to bring forth life. Suddenly, vibrant green shoots break through the soil, grasses, trees, and flowers of every color. It's like watching a garden bloom for the first time, bursting into every hue imaginable, from the deep green of pine forests to the golden fields of wheat. Trees grow tall, with fruits hanging heavy and ripe, as if the land itself is singing with life. The fourth day brings another marvel. God places the sun, moon, and stars in the heavens. Imagine looking up and seeing the sun shining brilliantly, radiating warmth and light across the world. Then, the moon appears, cool and serene, surrounded by stars twinkling like diamonds scattered across velvet. This isn't just any sky. This is the first time the heavens sparkle with such wonder, set in place by the hand of God himself. Day and night now have their guiding lights, marking time with elegance and beauty. Now on the fifth day, the waters and skies come alive. Picture the seas teeming with creatures, schools of fish gliding through the water, dolphins leaping in playful arcs, whales breaching with mighty splashes. Above, birds of every kind soar and swoop, their feathers brilliant in the sun, calling out in songs that fill the sky with sound. The air and sea have become wild and joyful, filled with life that swims and flies in a display of grace and wonder. On the sixth day, God turns to the land again. He speaks, and creatures of every kind come forth. Lions with their proud roars, gentle deer that move quietly through meadows, the playful movements of monkeys swinging from branch to branch, and mighty elephants that shake the earth with each step. It's a spectacle, like watching every kind of animal you've ever seen and more, all appearing for the first time, each unique and purposeful, all moving together in harmony. Finally, as the crowning act of creation, God forms mankind in his own image. Imagine the wonder of that moment, the first man and woman crafted with care, with minds to think and hearts to feel. They look around, eyes wide, marveling at the beauty surrounding them, the skies, the land, the creatures, and the trees. God blesses them, giving them dominion over everything on earth, calling them to tend and keep this magnificent world. As the seventh day dawns, God rests. And imagine the stillness, a perfect peace and satisfaction as all creation settles into its rhythm. The work is complete. A breathtaking masterpiece, vibrant and alive, every part fitting perfectly, every creature and plant fulfilling its purpose. The world is a song, a garden, a canvas of beauty and life, all created by the word and hand of God. And it's good, so very, very good. Genesis chapter 2. Imagine stepping into the world that has just been created, where everything is fresh and brimming with life. The sun shines brightly in the sky, casting warmth over the land that feels both new and ancient, like it has just emerged from the hands of a great artist. And here, in this pristine world, God forms a special place, a garden called Eden. Picture the lush greenery, a paradise of blossoming flowers and towering trees, with a river flowing through, bringing cool, sparkling water that winds its way around the land, nourishing everything it touches. It's not just any garden. This is Eden, perfect and alive in every detail. In the middle of this glorious garden, God places the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, each one mysterious and majestic. Can you imagine it? These trees stand tall and unique, vibrant with a beauty that speaks of deep mysteries and grand purpose. Their presence fills the garden with a sense of wonder, inviting you to look closer, to marvel at their beauty, and to feel the weight of meaning they hold. Then, God forms the first man from the dust of the ground, sculpting him with care and breathing into him the breath of life. Imagine that first breath. Adam's eyes open, taking in this world around him. He is alive, truly alive, and filled with awe at all he sees. His first moments are filled with wonder, as he feels the breeze on his skin, smells the fragrance of flowers, hears the sounds of birds, and the gentle rush of the river. This is life, full and perfect, breathed into him by the Creator himself. But God knows it is not good for the man to be alone. So, he brings each creature to Adam, asking him to name them. Picture Adam's face lighting up as animals of every kind approach him. Majestic lions, gentle deer, bright-eyed birds, and playful creatures of every shape and size. He observes them, names them, understanding their unique qualities. Yet among all the creatures, none is a true companion for him. A longing remains, a part of him waiting for something more. And then, in his love and wisdom, God causes Adam to fall into a deep sleep. Imagine the stillness as Adam lies resting, as if all creation is holding its breath. Gently, God takes one of Adam's ribs and forms it into a woman, a partner who is like him, yet beautifully different. When Adam wakes and sees her, there is a spark of recognition, of joy and completeness. "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh," he exclaims. Can you see the look in his eyes? This is love, a deep connection that fulfills him in a way nothing else could. And so, the first man and woman stand together in the garden, united and whole. They are without shame, clothed in innocence, their hearts in harmony with one another and with the world around them. The Garden of Eden is alive with beauty and peace, every creature and plant flourishing under their care, and they walk with God in perfect fellowship. The air is filled with the scent of blossoms, the rustling of leaves, and the soft light of the setting sun casting a golden glow over everything. This is life as it was meant to be, a world brimming with love, wonder, and purpose, where man and woman live in communion with each other and with God, tending to the paradise he has given them. In this sacred place, they are free, blessed, and whole, surrounded by the beauty of creation, each day a gift from the Creator who made it all so very, very good. Genesis, chapter 3. Imagine the peaceful beauty of Eden, a paradise alive with harmony, where every plant, animal, and sound exists in perfect balance. The sun filters through the lush canopy, casting dappled light on Adam and Eve as they walk through the garden, delighting in the beauty around them. In this world, they feel no fear or shame, only joy, for they are free to enjoy everything in the garden, everything except one tree. But then, one day, a voice enters this scene, a voice different from the gentle presence of God. It's the voice of the serpent, sly and curious. Picture Eve pausing as the serpent speaks, drawing her attention to the one tree God has forbidden. It asks, "Did God really say, 'You must not eat from any tree in the garden'?" Imagine her confusion, her curiosity. She remembers God's words, how he told them not to eat from this tree, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Still, the serpent presses on, weaving doubts, saying, "You will not surely die. For God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." Eve gazes at the fruit, feeling a new kind of desire. Can you picture it? She reaches out, hesitating, then plucks a piece of the forbidden fruit. She tastes it, sweet, alluring, and strange. She offers it to Adam, who is with her, and he too takes and eats. In that instant, something changes. It's as though a veil is lifted from their eyes, and they see themselves, truly see for the first time. They realize their nakedness, and with it comes a rush of shame and vulnerability they've never known before. In haste, they gather fig leaves and fashion coverings, trying to hide what they now feel should be hidden. Imagine the way their hearts race, the unease that fills them as they hear God walking in the garden, calling to them. Instead of running to him as they usually would, they hide among the trees, their hearts heavy with guilt and fear. God's voice calls, "Where are you?" And they step forward, unable to meet his gaze. "Who told you that you were naked?" God asks, his voice both gentle and sorrowful. "Have you eaten from the tree that I commanded you not to eat from?" Adam blames Eve, and Eve, in turn, blames the serpent. The peace and unity they once knew are now replaced by blame and confusion, a feeling of separation they have never felt before. God speaks to the serpent first, condemning it to crawl on its belly, cursing it above all creatures. Then he turns to Eve, speaking of the pain she will now face in childbirth, yet promising that one day her offspring will crush the serpent's head. To Adam, God explains that the ground itself will be cursed because of his disobedience. No longer will Eden's fruit spring forth effortlessly. He will toil and labor all his life, struggling to coax food from the earth. Then, in a final act of both judgment and mercy, God clothes them with garments of animal skins, covering them more fully than their fig leaves. Can you feel the weight of this moment? They watch as he lovingly prepares these garments, a painful reminder of the loss of innocence and the life they once knew. God's heart must be breaking, yet he knows what must be done. Finally, God sends them out from the garden. Imagine their sorrow as they take one last look at Eden, their home, now guarded by angels and a flaming sword that turns every way, blocking the path to the tree of life. They walk away, hand in hand, entering a world now touched by hardship and struggle, yet not abandoned by God. And so, the world outside Eden begins. A world where life will be harder, yet a world still filled with God's promise. A glimmer of hope that one day there will be a way back. As Adam and Eve step forward into this unknown, we sense that God's plan for redemption is already unfolding, even in the midst of loss. Genesis, chapter 4. Picture a new world, now outside Eden, where Adam and Eve are learning to work the land, their hands and hearts feeling the weight of their choices. They have two sons, Cain and Abel, who grow up in this world, each with a distinct path and purpose. Cain, the elder, works the soil, coaxing crops from the earth with toil and patience. Abel, on the other hand, tends to sheep, guiding and caring for his flocks with devotion. In time, the two brothers prepare offerings to bring before the Lord, each one bringing the fruits of his labor. Imagine Cain carefully gathering his produce, the crops he has cultivated, and placing them as his offering. Abel, too, prepares his gift, selecting the firstborn lambs from his flock, the choicest and most precious he has. They each come before the Lord, their offerings a reflection of their hearts. God looks with favor on Abel and his offering, delighting in the sincerity of his gift. Picture the warmth of God's acceptance, a quiet smile of approval over Abel's humble, heartfelt sacrifice. But for Cain, God's response is different. God does not look on his offering with favor, and Cain feels a sting of disappointment and jealousy. Can you sense his frustration, his anger simmering just beneath the surface? God speaks to Cain, his voice gentle but firm. Why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it. Imagine God's warning, like a father guiding his child, urging Cain to see his own heart and make a choice toward good. But Cain's heart is clouded, his anger taking root and growing. One day Cain calls Abel out to the field. The sun shines down, but the atmosphere is tense, a heaviness in the air. As they walk together, Cain's anger boils over, and in a moment of rage, he strikes his brother down. Abel falls, and suddenly the peaceful world they knew shatters. Cain stands alone, his hands stained with his brother's blood, the echo of his actions ringing in the silence. God speaks again, calling to Cain. "Where is your brother Abel?" Cain, trying to deflect, responds, "I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper?" But God's voice is sorrowful and piercing. "What have you done?" "Listen. Your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground." Can you feel the weight of that statement, the sorrow in God's heart as he confronts Cain with the reality of his actions? In judgment, God tells Cain that the ground he once worked will now resist him. It will no longer yield its crops for him. He will become a restless wanderer on the earth. Cain, overwhelmed by his punishment, pleads, fearing that anyone who finds him will kill him. But even in this moment of judgment, God shows mercy. He places a mark on Cain, a sign of protection, so that no one who finds him will harm him. Cain leaves the Lord's presence, stepping into a life of wandering, separated by his own choices. The story shifts, and we see Adam and Eve once more. Can you imagine their grief as they learn of Abel's death and Cain's departure? Yet, even in their sorrow, life goes on. God grants them another son, Seth, and through him, a glimmer of hope is rekindled. Eve names him, saying, "God has granted me another child in place of Abel since Cain killed him." And so, a new chapter begins. From Seth's family, people begin to call on the name of the Lord. It's a quiet but powerful reminder that, even in a world marked by sin and loss, there is a line of hope, a people who remember God and seek his presence. The story of humanity continues, shaped by choices, marked by loss, yet always carrying the faint promise that God has not abandoned his creation. He is there, watching, guiding, and waiting for the day when he will restore what was lost. Genesis, chapter 5. Now, imagine a long line stretching through time, a family tree reaching from Adam and Eve down through the generations. In this lineage, life pulses forward, each person a link in the chain of humanity, carrying with them the memory of Eden, the presence of God, and the mark of their ancestors' choices. This is the genealogy of Adam. Picture Adam, the first man, who lived a remarkable 930 years. In those centuries, he saw his children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren grow and multiply. His own life a reminder of the beginning, of the days when God walked with him in the garden. After Adam, each generation unfolds, a steady rhythm of lives lived and then laid to rest. In this line comes Seth, the son given to Adam and Eve after Abel's death, a child whose life brought them hope. Seth walks with God, and his children and descendants carry the same reverence for their Creator. Through Seth's family, people continue to call on the name of the Lord, and the legacy of worship and devotion lives on. Seth lives for 912 years before he too passes, leaving behind a lineage that carries the light of faith in a world beginning to change. Generations pass. Enoch, then Kenan, Mahalalel, Jared, each one living centuries, building families, and filling the earth. Imagine them. The earth growing with each generation, cities and settlements expanding. Yet each person in this line carrying a memory, a story passed down from Adam about the God who created them. Then, a remarkable figure appears. Enoch, Jared's son. Enoch's life is different from those before him. He is deeply devoted to God, and his walk with the Lord is so close, so pure, that something extraordinary happens. Imagine this. For 365 years, Enoch walks faithfully with God until one day, he simply isn't there anymore. God takes him. He does not die. He is carried into the presence of God. Enoch's life becomes a mystery, a glimmer of hope, a reminder that there is more than what is seen, a testament to the closeness a person can have with their Creator. Enoch's son, Methuselah, lives longer than anyone else. 969 years, nearly a millennium. Imagine the wisdom, the stories Methuselah must have carried, passed down through countless generations. And after Methuselah, his son Lamech is born, and then Lamech has a son he names Noah. Lamech's heart is full of hope and prophecy as he names his son, saying, "He will comfort us in the labor and painful toil of our hands, caused by the ground the Lord has cursed." With Noah's birth, a new anticipation stirs. He is marked from birth as someone who might bring rest, relief, and hope in a world that feels the weight of humanity's fall. Noah grows. And as he does, the earth fills with people, each one connected back to Adam, each one bearing the imprint of God's image and the burden of a broken world. Through this genealogy, we see the faithfulness of God. Despite humanity's failings, he preserves a line that calls upon his name, a line that remembers him. Each name in this list is more than a record. Each is a promise that God's work continues, that he has not abandoned the world he created. And with the birth of Noah, we see a hint that God has a plan, a purpose that will unfold in ways beyond what anyone could imagine. In this line of people, life goes on, faith handed down, hope passed from father to son. It's a story of resilience, devotion, and the quiet anticipation that someday the pain and toil of life will find an answer in the God who walks with those who seek him. Thank you for watching. Watch our next video in the series featuring Noah and the flood.